Take a moment to acknowledge the loss to our community of our former mayor's beloved mother, Mary Coolidge Hastings Copen. She passed away on December 9th. In addition to giving us her wonderful son, her wonderful children who contributed so much to our town, she was also an educator here in Enfield for over 20 years, teaching home economics. I want to extend our love and our prayers to her husband, Richard, her children, Todd, Scott, and Lynn, and every friend and family member who was touched by her. She will be greatly missed. On Thursday, the 14th, at Brown Memorial Funeral Chapels in Enfield, from 4 to 8, there will be calling hours, and on Friday, December 15th at 10:30 a.m., there will be a funeral service held at Brown Memorial Funeral Chapels. So we're going to take a moment of silence, please. And now, let's rise for the anthem and the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America. That was very moving. Thank you very much. Fire evacuation. If in case of a fire or emergency, there is an exit at the rear of the chamber. Go out into the parking lot. Or you can go out my left, your right, and on the left down the stairs into the rear parking lot and away from the building. Kathy, roll call, please.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Here.
Mr. Neville?
Here.
Mr. Ryder?
Here.
Mr. Beignet?
Here.
Mrs. DePoe?
Here. Sorry about that.
Mr.
You say
Rutledge?
here for that one.
Here.
Mrs. Riley?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Here.
Chairman Krizel?
Here. And yes, Ms. Hernandez is here.
We look alike.
No. All right, so we have board guests. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we welcome our athletic director, Mr. Corey O'Connell. Mr. O'Connell and the Enfield High Fall coaches are here to recognize their student athletes and athletic teams for their outstanding fall 2017 accomplishments. There's a packet in your memo from Mr. O'Connell. At this point, I'd welcome Mr. O'Connell up to introduce his coaches.
Would the vice chair and the secretary please meet me in front of the dais?
Thank you so much for having us. We had an outstanding fall season, many team and individual awards that I couldn't be more proud of. Tonight I'm going to give the opportunity to the coaches to introduce their student athletes and some of the accomplishments that they had this fall.
Rob Barnes, boys and girls cross country head coach, and I have 3 all-conference team athletes we'd like to recognize tonight. Freshman Dan White. You can clap for him. Congratulations, Dan. Sophomore Ethan O'Farrell. Oh. Thank you, Ethan. Where did Dan go? We want you to walk up here. It's always hard being first, right? Okay. Take the walk. It's a walk of fame, not the walk of shame. Okay. And then finally, this girl, as a senior, has made all-conference team all 4 years. Also, all the state open 4 straight years. Senior Sydney Nash, the girls team. And now, Cookie Brummage and Amy Bartholomew.
Thanks, Bardsey. You're a sweetheart.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Board of Education, administrators,
Corey O'Connell for helping us and supporting us all year long to be with our team. We really appreciate that. We have some special awards to give out this evening. Ames, maybe you could hand those to me. First, we placed 6 girls on our all-conference team. I'd like to ask Taylor Gigalone to come up. Thanks, Taylor. Michaela March. Larissa Montigny. Larissa got hurt in our final game, but she's on the road to recovery. Tori Gigalone, who cannot be with us this evening. Caitlin Bork, also a junior, and a junior, Kelly Mazza. Okay, from this, we'd also like to acknowledge that 3 of our players made the All-State first team for field hockey. That would be Taylor Gigalone, Tails, again, and Michaela March, and Tori Gigalone. Thank you, girls. Tails, would you stand for 1 minute, please?
Sure.
We're also very proud to announce that Taylor Gigalone has been selected by the Hartford Courant as the Field Hockey Player of the Year. Tails, congratulations on that. Last week, we learned at the All-State Banquet that the Connecticut High School coaches voted Taylor as the Connecticut Field Hockey Player of the Year. We're so proud of you, honey. And at our CCC meeting last week, we came home with the plaque for winning the league, 10-0 in the CCC North. Thank you very much. James Liver for football.
Thank you. Thank you so much again to the board as well. This year we had in football, we had 3 all CCC performers. We had freshman Xavier Copening. Senior Nick Biela. And 2-time All-CCC achiever Mason Dumas at quarterback. We're also awaiting the possibility of an all-state selection for Mason as well. That should be in by the end of this week. Congratulations. Thank you. Boys soccer, Tony Allegro.
Thank you. So for boys soccer this year, we only have one, but it's a special one. We have an all-conference selection. Keegan Ream, come on up. After doing some research, we found that Keegan made a little history. He's the first sophomore in Enfield history, in Enfield High history, to receive this award. So congratulations. Next up is girls soccer, Kate Batista.
We were fortunate enough to have 5 girls named to the all-conference team. 2 of them couldn't be here tonight, one for a school project and the other for soccer practice, so shows your dedication. Katarina Fonseca, a senior. And Delaney Lawler, also a senior. We also had Bella Laramie, a junior. Sarah Moreno, a senior. And Maggie Mersick, also a senior. And the two that aren't here, Delaney and Kat, they were also named to the All-State team. Kat, it was her first time, and Delaney, it was her third time. And we just got this in the mail today. Mr. O'Connell gave this to me, which is a fantastic honor for Delaney. I'm not even sure she knows about it, but she was named an S-Mark All-American as a senior. Next up, we have Coach Debbie Goodman from swimming.
Thank you. So this is my first year coaching swimming, and we had one swimmer, a freshman this year, who made all conference in 2 events, 200 IM and the 100 backstroke, and she actually also broke the school record in both of those events. And I know the 200 IM has been up there for almost 20 years because it was my sister's, and so I was extra happy and proud that she broke it. And she couldn't be here tonight because she's got her big meet this weekend. She couldn't miss practice, but you'll see her again in future years here. Albina.
Hello, I'm Albina Belisle, girls volleyball. Before I announced this, we had made the state tournament for the first time in over 18 years. So it was a great accomplishment for the last 13 years I've been coaching. So I had one all-conference player this year. So her name's Alexa Liucci. It still works. All right, and I'm last, so that's it.
Just want to congratulate all the athletes and teams this fall season. Thank you guys so much.
I also want to congratulate all you student athletes. It's a great job. It puts Enfield on the map, and to the teams that went to the state and so on. It's just great to see all you guys come out. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys come on up here.
Come on, gang. Everybody go.
I like the memo on the shirts. You guys are all color coordinated. That's we didn't get the memo up here, so.
Do you want one of these comfortable chairs here? No, it's just fine. You guys have the big shots. No. Yeah, let me just, I'll sit next to you.
All right, we'll give them a few minutes to, a few seconds, I should say.
Is Randy coming?
Oh, he's part of the joint facility.
Working hard, really? Yes.
I'm waiting for people to get by. I don't want to knock them out.
Why not? No. Thank you.
I think this is, this is what you're gonna need.
Yes, I am. I always. I'm not. Well, it's just that pretty formatted.
Okay, so we want to, board guest 6B, the Joint Facility Committee, which comprises of Deputy Mayor Suzak, Councilor Davis, Board Member Neville, and myself. And I will stay up here for this one. You gave me one?
Yes, I
Okay.
gave you one.
So please, Mr. Neville, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Joint Facilities Committee, Donna Suzak and I will be presenting an update on the committee's work to date. This is, in essence, just a status report. It tells you what we've done so far and outlines where we are headed. We have hard copies and digital copies of the facility spreadsheets that we created for your review. We'll get those sent out to you. I'll get them to Kathy, and she can get them out to you tomorrow, and so you'll have them. Although we're going to review these things fairly quickly in the presentation, and we're going to be providing a great deal of data for you to review. This is not something you can do in 15 minutes and put away. It'll take you several days to kind of figure it all out. And we're sure that you'll have some questions tonight, and we're sure you're going to have a great many more questions once you get a chance to review the spreadsheets in greater detail. Next. Walter's already stolen my thunder and introduced everybody up here, but basically the committee membership up there, they were put together basically on the charge of the membership criteria in the charge that was given to us by the council. Currently, we're one member short, and we have been for most of our term. The membership needs to be addressed pretty quickly. We need some more people in here, and one of our recommendations is going to be including increasing the size of the membership and also probably the charge of the committee as well. Anyway, let's move on to the next slide if we can. Oops, you're ahead of us. We'll look at the charge of the committee here. Okay. It's in your packet on slide number 3. Basically, the charge of the committee was given to us by the town council, and it's a joint committee. But basically, we're supposed to review the town of Enfield and Board of Ed facility needs. Second item was to prioritize the facility improvement projects. And third, develop a schedule and funding plan for the implementation of needed facility improvements. As you know, the previous town council authorized a report, and it was called the SBC Facilities Report, which I believe everybody has a copy of. Or actually, I'm not sure that all the new board members have gotten a copy of that. Walter, do you remember, or if we can just make sure they have... I will make sure
copies, yeah. I will get copies made up.
And I think a digital copy would be probably the best one if we can do it.
I will dig it up and get it to you. To you two also.
Okay, this has been around since 2015, and was basically the foundation of all the data, most of the data that we collected and reviewed as part of the committee. We were looking at both long-term and short-term needs, and the spreadsheet, which I think is, you guys have a copy of.
Yeah, I did. Everyone's got one.
Okay. Okay. You need to go to the task. No, not yet. Go to the slide, just.
Okay.
This is not his fault, because he never makes mistakes with technology. This is my fault. Okay?
Okay, you want the task?
Task, yep. Okay. 1 second here. I'm just going to jump in here and just dump in that we had, as we went through this process, I don't think any of us really knew how many facilities the town in Enfield really had. And it comes out to a total of 33 facilities, some of which I bet you haven't even heard of, the buildings that we own. And I think that was part of the problem for us to get that data, find out information about when roofs were done, when boilers and furnaces and stuff like that, and also electrical issues. And that was what we had to basically gather. And that's why we're up on this task slide that we have up here. The basic thing we had to do was analyze all available data and prioritize the needs. It was almost impossible to find where the data was. There is no one resource of all the data that we have on our buildings. Okay? We researched through the files up in Fermi. We went through what we had in that report. Although the report was pretty inclusive, it didn't include all of the data that we eventually pulled out. It was hard to find out differences in terms of when roofs were done, what kind of roofs they were, how big they were. We did find out that we had a number of roofs that were done all in the same year, which is, in planning, that's not a good thing, because that means they all come due in the same year when you have to replace them after 20 or 25 years. So we wanted to gather all that data, and I'm going to say, and I think Don and the committee will agree with me, that that was the biggest part of our work the last 9 months or so, was trying to get that data and verifying it. The other task was to verify cost estimates for things, propose a schedule for planning and construction phases, propose a short and long-term funding plan to implement needed facilities improvements, prepare a final report to the Town Council and Board of Ed with recommendations and conclusions. We didn't come to conclusions right now, but we made a decision early on that as we came up with recommendations, we were going to include them along the way so they wouldn't get lost. It's too big a project to wait till the end to try to deal with that. So these tasks serve as the outline, but for the most part, if you're looking at that, we never got beyond the top 2 bullets because it just took up that much time. In terms of the next slide, the update of the committee's work to date, we analyzed that SBS report and all available Enfield facility data. And I put it in quotes because available, it's not really that, it's not available in any one place. I think we did a good job of getting the data that we've got, but I'm not sure that we have it all, and we know there's a lot of dates and things that we still have to verify. And in terms of things like the roofs and things like that, we have a lot of issues in terms of when they were done, what type of roof it was. Is that the best roof to do this the next time? Is there a more efficient way to do it, something that's more current, and so on. So there's a lot of ancillary data that we need to come up with. Donna and I and the rest of the committee developed this detailed spreadsheet of need areas, and we sorted them by priority, maintenance, system, subsystem, and several other items. We identified early on that as we looked at tens of millions of dollars worth of facility improvements that we need to look at, that we needed to kind of start somewhere. And I think the best place to start is the building envelope. If it's leaking, we can't do anything inside. So we need to take care of making the building envelope secure, and then work our way along with that. Thankfully, the town manager and the council helped us do a draft analysis of the building of one of the roofs. I think it was Hazardville Memorial, and we have a report on that if anybody wants to look at it at some point, and to basically look at what it would cost us to take a look at Hazardville Memorial roof. It has 4 or 5 different roofs, I believe, that are there, and they are not all the same. They're not built the same. So to repair that, you can't come up with an easy cost or an easy program to do that. And so we were able to get a roofing contractor to take a look at it and gave us a detailed analysis. And that was just a draft to get us started. What we need to do is do that for all of our facilities. And we really need to get a roofing contractor, not on staff, but kind of vetted out there so that they can come up and give us that kind of information. So basically, gathering and analyzing all the facility data turned out to be a much bigger task than we thought it would be. None of the stuff is located in any one area. I'm going to take over at this point. Donna's going to take over, and you should have a. Hope you can read it there. The analysis approach. Yep. It's kind of the cheat sheet for how you go through that chart.
I guess the first thing that we did as a committee is we sat down and we had the SBC report. We asked for it in Excel, and it was given to us in Excel, and we started looking through it, and it became quite obvious to us that a lot of the buildings that were priority 1, some were actually vacant buildings or of little use. So we asked for information on facility utilization, which we we got utilization, we got floor plans, but we didn't put the full picture together as to whether buildings that are being used are actually being used to their fullest capacity, which is a large problem that we need to understand. So the first thing as a committee, we said, well, this is great. We have priority one things, but priority one needs a secondary designation. So we said an A1 would be a fully occupied building that's in use that actually is a priority one. And we went through and we had A, B, C, and then we had PC, which was performance contract. That would mean that that facility and that need was being taken care of by the referendum for the performance contract. And then we had vacant buildings, which if it was a priority one and it's vacant, it really wasn't on our radar to have something done to it. And then as we looked through, we felt that there needed to be some sort of consolidation and look at how the buildings are used in town. And that you'll see is PV, which is potentially vacant. At that time, we asked for our charge to be expanded so that we could make recommendations to the council, in particular because the council's area where we seem to have the most buildings that have not been analyzed for their usage. The charge was not expanded, and at that point it became a little bit difficult to, I guess, give really good recommendations. So at that point we decided that if we can't do that, let's look at how we would organize these. We prioritize things by roofs, windows, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, bathrooms, building renovations, sprinklers, and ADA, to look to see if we could see some sort of pattern of how we could approach, because you have to remember this original report has $101 million worth of work that needs to be done. So we were kind of, how's the best way we could approach this? And the second day, we organized it by accessibility, exterior shell, grounds, HVAC, interior shell, plumbing, and statutory. That seemed to give us, I guess, a direction to go in, and where Tim has said that the most important thing is if we don't do the exterior envelope first, anything we do on the inside is not going to be of any significance. And then the security committee was disbanded, so the security building hardening, that also came over to facilities. So in that, if we've tried to put some of our notes as we look, and we like, exterior doors, windows, the vestibules, all that is part of security. And that's something that needs to be addressed. I just read an article in the paper that, we as school systems are not doing a good job at this. So I guess through looking at that and looking at everything else, we started to formulate where we would go from here. And for us, and especially for me, the most important thing was the exterior envelope. And that in itself encompasses the security. So back to Tim.
As I said, we came up with recommendations as we went along, but we also came up with concerns. And so we kind of go to the committee's concerns and the questions that we had in terms of thinking about the process. I think Donna already alluded to this, but basically how many buildings do we need out of the 33 and can fully utilize them? How many do we really need to keep and how many do we need to maintain? If you're priority one and you're empty, priority one is something like we have to have it done in 3 or 4 years. We have to make some decisions. I think that's one of the reasons we asked to expand the charge, because there has to be some kind of recommendations here. If the building is 100 years old and we're not using it, can we somehow merge those things together with other buildings and get more efficient use out of it? So those are the kinds of questions. It's certainly not our place to tell the council what to do, but we thought as they came up there, we should bring them up to them and kind of pose them as questions for them. We said earlier that in seeking out the records of previous projects, we discovered there is no central town council or Board of Ed data warehouse of any of this stuff. Doesn't exist. And for facility records, either paper or digital. We found some paper records, we found some digital records. The idea would be what we have for Enfield High School right now, which is it's all digital. It gives the maintenance schedules of all the mechanicals we have there and so on, and it's a complete set of records. We don't have that. We don't have as-built of any of our buildings, I don't think, other than that. If we did, they have not been kept up to date. There's also no one person responsible for getting and analyze the facility data, which was one of the main reasons that made it hard for us to find it. We eventually found a lot of data, but it wasn't totally complete, and we had to kind of piece it together. I think the committee's feeling was until we get some centralized location for all of this data, and we have somebody who's totally in charge of this data, analyzing it and getting recommendations to us, it's very, very difficult to carry out the rest of our charge. Thirdly, Donna alluded to this, that safety needs were not part of the SBS survey that they had taken, and that came over to our committee, and it needs to be added in, because as we're building Enfield High School, we had to do all the security things that would change by the state after the Newtown tragedy, and a lot more are still coming out. So we have to have somebody that's watching out for that stuff. If we have doors and entryways that you've seen in some of the buildings that need to be done to make the buildings more secure, and that needs to be added to this list, and that wasn't in the original list that we had, so we added it in. We also needed to come up with a funding plan to address the facility needs, and we had to figure out a way to pay for them. Okay, $101 million is not chump change. That's real money, and we can't spend it all at once. We have somewhere between 8 and 9 roofs, I believe. I'd have to go back and double check, that need to be replaced in the next 4 or 5 years. Okay, and that was the priority when it was set out in 2015. So it's already with 2017. We're a couple of years down the road. We have to come up with a plan to deal with those things. And a way to fund it. There is grant money for some of these things. We need somebody to pull that together for us when we go to do that. When you do a roof like JFK or a roof like Haslam Wharf, there's 5 sections of it. You can't just do it in 1 year either. We staggered them over 5 years when we did JFK the last time, and that's because you can't use some of the materials you have there while the building's occupied. So you end up paying for it over 5 years, and you do one wing at a time, and you'd say do the same thing with Haslam Memorial. Another thing that has to be looked at as we go along to do this. And finally, in terms of the questions we came up with, we need to come up with a reliable long-range plan so that we don't get in the situation that we're currently in. And it actually needs to be 2 plans. It needs to be one to fix what we have now, and it has the next one to go out so we don't get into this situation again. And I think it's all doable, but we need to put it on the table and make that an outcome of this committee. The last one that we had to do, we talked about, we said, do we need a town facility manager who would collect and analyze the data for all long and short-term maintenance projects, and who would annually report recommendations to the town council and Board of Ed? A lot of the towns that we've been talking to, they have a person like that, different descriptions, different skill sets and so on, but we need to have somebody that owns that data. We have to have a process in which that data is automatically collected and be able to be analyzed and come up with budget recommendations and so on. Finally, we came up with recommendations. We're suggesting that the Town Council and the Board of Ed determine how many buildings they need in the next 5 years. Do they need 33? Can they combine certain things and come up with things that are more efficient and save some money in that process and spend whatever savings they have on addressing these priorities? They have to determine whether those facilities that are no longer needed, whether they be repurposed or put on the market to be sold and added back on the grand list. We're just making a recommendation. It's not our place to decide that, but there's no point in having an empty facility here. If we don't need it in the next 5 years, then we should start talking about what we can do to either repurpose it or put it back on the tax rolls or something to that effect. We think the Town Council and the Board of Ed, we recommend that they investigate strategies to make more efficient use of current facilities. I know in some places we've consolidated departments and things like that, both town and school board, but I think we have to look at those kinds of things to make it more efficient and make a decision whether we actually need all of the facilities that we have. And finally, we're asking the Town Council to review the committee's charge and make it more inclusive and increase the size of the Joint Facilities Committee. And the big recommendation, well, there's actually two. One of Donna's favorites here will be coming up. But the biggest recommendation to get us moving on this is create a position called facilities manager. The more we kept looking at this stuff, we saying there has to be some go-to person here that's going to be responsible for this. Their responsibilities have to include collecting, organizing, and systematizing all town facility data, systematizing and implementing regular facility maintenance service intervals to ensure sustainability of all facility mechanical systems. As I said a few minutes ago, that's what the Enfield High committee did, and they came up with a plan. All of the schedules of maintenance service intervals are right there. They come up on the computer, tell you when you have to do it. It's there, and that safeguards the investment that we have in our facilities, and will make them last longer. This individual needs to make budget recommendations on immediate and long-term facility needs to the council. We're suggesting 1 year, 5 year, 10 year intervals to come up with needs that will that will address those types of intervals. And finally, proposing a funding, including tentative grants for annual budget process. This person should be part of the budget setting process and providing an analysis of what the facility needs are and providing a plan to get them done over the course of 1 year, 5 year, 10 year periods. I turn it over to Donna. She has a proposal here about referendums.
I guess after looking at all the things that were on there, you know, the only way that anything stays permanent for money and funding is through referendum. Anything put in the budget is available to be moved at the need of the council and the need of the town. So after looking at this, you know, we finally, you know, got together and we said that we could do like the roads, a referendum set up for 25 million referendum over 5 years, approximately 5 million to be spent each year. Roofs, electrical over $600,000, windows, doors, security component, and look for grants also for security. The second recommendation is anything that's under $600,000 should be bundled and either done by our in-staff house, that if they have the skills, capability, and time, or bundled and put out for bid and get in a contractor who would do something like repointing brick. We probably have enough brick to repoint to keep somebody busy for 4 years. But if we could cycle something like that, we could organize that. And that's really, you know, what a facilities person does. And I think for me, the exterior, the roofs, and the security component, I think that, you know, with going to referendum, that would set that money in motion. And then we could start to do our buildings, either one building at a time or one discipline at a time. I'm not sure. That's why we would need to expand our committee and bring in some professional help so that we would know that, do we bundle roofs and do 3 buildings of roofs this year? Do we bundle security and do the security of all the schools all at once? You know, how do we best package this so that we get a good price? Because we want to have competitive bidding on this, because that's how we're going to get our work done. If we don't do that, it's not going to happen for us. So for me, and hopefully for the rest of the committee, we would like to see it have a two-pronged approach. And also with the voting down of the JFK, we are also going to request to leadership that the JFK go to the facilities committee so that it can be looked at by some more eyes that are more in tune with getting this thing to a point where we can pass it. We know what the town needs at JFK. We know what the staff wants, but I think we need to bring in some experts that can figure out what the town can afford and how we can do it.
Another. Next steps.
Next step? Okay. Okay. The next step Expand the committee charge and membership. Begin to develop a building sustainability plan that should be implemented as soon as possible. Work with Town Council and Board of Ed to get approval for getting a facilities recommendations included in next year's budget, 18-19. That's our recommendation. I really think that we need to look at, do we provide our services in larger buildings that hold more disciplines, or do we keep the system that we have now where we have singleton buildings all over town? My inclination is that one larger building will do us better, but for that, again, I would look to somebody to come in who does this for a living and has the proper programming to analyze the data.
If I could just throw one thing in at the end here. We pressured, well, not pressured, we wanted to push this thing so that we could get, I guess we did pressure. We wanted to get this thing started. It's been kicked down the can by everybody for years. There's $100 million worth of facility repair that we have to do. And there'll never be a good time. People say, well, we should wait till a good time. There's no good time to do that. We know what the time frame is. We know what when they're at the end of their useful life. Roofs in New England last about 20 years. I've done 2 in my house, and I've lived there for 40 years. So, it's just the way it is. But we need to plan so it isn't a surprise, and that it's regularly planned. Just like we're buying, that we did the roads. Just like we're buying police cruisers. We're not waiting. It has to happen to keep people safe. We're going to wear them out. We know how long they last. So we have a regular process to do that. We need to have a similar process dealing with these facilities. We can't, anybody that's been on, a lot of you guys have sat in on the meetings and so on, the size of the issues that we have to deal with. And I think that's what we're looking to do. We have to start somewhere. Even if we started for a couple $100,000 to start in this thing in this budget year, it helps us educate the public of the need. And I think they understand it the same way we do. We all have houses and homes, and you have to keep it up. And I think once we start, and each time we do it, we educate folks about that it's a reasonable thing to do. They can expect what's going to happen. The plan will be laid out to them. We can check it off as we get it done. Okay? I think it can work, but we have to start. So at this point, we've taken it all in about 15 minutes. We're waiting for your question.
Ms. LeBlanc.
I have a couple of questions, but first I'm going to make a statement. It's cold in here. My nose is freezing right now. I'm just saying that out loud. For the record, it's cold in here. Since we're talking about facilities, right? And it was cold too.
Okay, we'll take notes.
We'll take notes on that kind of stuff and bring it up to facilities people.
I just have a couple of questions, but I can stop if, I won't make them long-winded. Okay. So I was happy to hear.
Just giving me encouragement.
That's okay. I was happy to hear that it seems like some facet of the security committee got moved over to the joint facilities, and I'm very happy to hear that. And it sounds like you guys, as a committee, will be approaching to get more of a handle on that, which I think is extremely, extremely important, because if you're going to be looking at renovating the buildings, you're going to want to be looking at safety as a top priority as well. I have a question regarding Hazardville Memorial. I know there was a lot of talk about Hazardville not qualifying for some of those upgrades because of the age of the school. I noticed that it is qualifying for some things in this worksheet. Can you give me some clarification on that?
If I can remember how they split it out, because remember the first referendum that both of them failed was the $41 million for facilities and the $11 million for the performance contract. And what we had was a choice of 3 different performance contract schemes. And the one that had the conversion to natural gas and the new windows for Hazardville Memorial, the payback period was long over 16 years. And that we felt that going way over 16 years, that this payback period was too long. So we chose something that had a more, a quicker payback period, figuring that this would do better to go into the facilities. And I guess I have to make this comment at this point because I know we're going to facilities, and when we do go, we're going to ask, at one time, and this is why we need a facilities manager. At one time, there was reimbursement for 50% for roofs.
Right.
And windows was that, I could have it backwards, state would buy the windows, pay for the cost of the windows, but town would pay for the cost of installation of the windows. So there's a lot of things that are out there that we can get state grants for, and we can, improve our schools and our town facilities this way. This is why it's really critical to have people who do know all the nuts and bolts of where the money is, how it's available, and how do we get it done. And the other thing is that I have to stress over and over again that the only way that we keep the money for what we want to do with the money is to do this through referendum. I mean, it's really nice if you have a fund and every year you put, say, $300,000 away, and eventually you have your millions that you need. But this starts to look like a big pot of money that can keep the mill rate down or can do some other project. So this is why, for me, I think referendum is critical, even more so than raising the lower limit of what the town council can appropriate for a project. I really think the firmness of monies in referendum, for me, for facilities is critical. Just like you see how we've been able to do the roads in 5-year increments. I think that it's possible to get, roofs, security, and a few interior things done in a 5-year plan.
My next question, you guys talk about increasing the size of and the charge, and I understand that the piece about the charge, but when you're talking about increasing the size, are you looking more for more input from the town employees, so to speak, or more, okay.
Well, the thing is that you need to, my example is Tim and I went to all the records. The only ones we didn't do is, and I think they still exist, and that's where most of the drawings are upstairs for when the buildings were originally built. But I looked at the town library and I found 3 alternate schemes for roofing the library. But I never found any verification that in 2005 the roof was done. Okay. So it's that kind of thing where you start to not feel comfortable. I mean, we were given in 8 different places, years that things were built, when they were roofed, all this stuff. And you start to feel, I look at drawings every day, but you start to feel uncomfortable when you don't have something that's stamped by a design professional that says for construction.
Right.
So it's all these things that make us feel that there needs to be someone who takes care of these things. And I know through the roads referendum, we were able to fund an employee who's paid through the referendum, who's supposed to take care of all the road implementation of that. So I think that in this, if we did get a referendum passed or put forward, that perhaps some of that money could be for 5 years to have this facility person to do this. And if it gets done, if that works out, and they bring in money through grants, and I know the Board of Ed knows about employees bringing their salary back in grants, that something like this is probably doable.
Well, I think that aids me a little bit of relief, just seeing that a new position should be added, and not that I don't agree with it, but just with the budget, with the way the budget is. And then I have my last question here. You made a comment that said that you had asked for JFK to come into the facilities committee. And so I guess for me, I shouldn't have assumed that that's exactly where it went when the referendum failed. So it hasn't been assigned to you guys, or?
I think it's in discussion right now. We're going down to the state. We have a group going down to the state on
January
4th now.
Okay.
It was supposed to be next week, and it wasn't. And that's to see what our options are with them, and to then come back and put together knowing those facts, then knowing what we have to do in terms of make that work.
Okay.
To us, it was logically the right place to put it was in facilities.
Okay.
Because no matter what happens,
Right.
there are deficiencies there that need to be addressed. So I think that's the conversation. My guess is it's going to be acted on fairly quickly.
And one of the reasons I wanted to see that happen too is because I had asked back when we had the informational meeting at JFK this past fall regarding the PCBs, I had asked at that point in time that be something that the Joint Facilities Committee was also involved in, because that was the best way to get information out there to board members, to town council members, and to people in the community. So I was hoping that would also be going over and be a part of your committee as well.
We agree with you. I think the other thing is that we think it needs to be kind of one-stop shopping here. You got to put your facilities stuff together. It can't be just one. Have several different committees working on it, because you interrelate with other buildings and other projects, and you can combine projects in a referendum to do some things and get some economies of scale on that. So it just makes sense. So we're in a process now. We're hoping within the next couple of weeks to try to bring some closure to that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, I just want to thank the entire committee for the work you've put in, Mr. Krzel as well. From my own professional experience, I know sometimes getting things organized and prioritizing can be one of the most challenging parts of anything, and I think you guys have done a fantastic job with this. And I like a lot of what I'm hearing right here. I like that you're recommending that the Joint Facilities Committee take on JFK. There's been a lot of discussion about what are going to be the next steps with that, so I think that's a really good idea. I like that you're talking about a long-term plan, as I think that's something a lot of people have been clamoring over for a while, and especially this, proposed position of a facilities manager who can maybe keep all those records organized and kind of prioritize and project manage a lot of these items that have to be dealt with on the various buildings and facilities we have. Two questions, though, that I did have. One was about, and Donna, you had mentioned about, referendums really being the best option for keeping money directed towards what it was meant to be used for. Is there any possibility, though, of creating, I guess the best word to use would be some kind of like project lockbox, so to speak, so that when something is budgeted for, that we make sure it's actually used for that, or at least, our taxpayers know that it was budgeted for this, but we decided to use it for that?
I guess what I've seen through my years on the town council is anything that goes to CIP, after 3 years, if it hasn't been used or allocated or the project started, then generally when we sweep, we will sweep that money and put it to where it needs to be done. One of the ones that has been done recently is the playscape at Eli Whitney. That was a sweep because the playscape needed to be replaced. We swept CIP, and that means you're going to take monies from completed projects that had a little bit extra here and there. And we just bought the property down on South River Street, and that's swept out of CIP. Monies for furniture, that the furniture had been purchased, there was a little bit left, and the parking for the Hazardville Village was swept out. So, that was a project that won't go forward now because that money, has gone someplace else. And that's what I think this facilities plan, looking at these things, understanding that when people come to Enfield to develop and to bring new businesses and to improve buildings that we have here, for me, it's imperative that we look like we know how to do it too. And for me, I guess that's how I want people to see Enfield. I know when we were hiring a town manager, we had one interviewee, and he point blank said, "You people need to improve on how you look." And Enfield has a lot of really good things. And I don't want Enfield to be overlooked by the fact that we do need to take care of some of the things that need to be addressed. But I do want to say that, our buildings are well cared for, on a day-to-day basis. But what we at this facilities committee are looking at, these are end-of-life issues for equipment. These are not day-to-day things, and I don't want anybody to confuse that. I mean, there's some certain things that are like, you know, grounds and things like that. They're easy to take care of, but they're not the things that we do day to day.
And actually, you actually kind of just addressed my second question, because I know a lot of what you guys talked about on the committee was really differentiating between what's really maintenance and what's just end of useful life. Like, you know, you can take care of your car and maintain it as best you can. Eventually, it's going to come to the end of its life, and you're going to have to get a new one. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I think a lot of people need to realize that it's not poor maintenance. It's just it's come to the end of its usefulness. But thank you.
Mr. Renier.
Two questions. First, out of the 33 buildings, how many are vacant? You may or may not know the answer to that.
You know, I would guess there's probably 4 or 5 that are vacant, and there's other ones that are underutilized. And you have to understand that, you know, as we're doing this, we're also looking for the transit center to go in. So we just now will be taking over the Strand. Just like we're getting, 28 South River Street. We got the Casket Building, which is 33 River Street. So since Tim and I last counted, we have more buildings. So these are the
Strand, too.
Yeah, the Strand. So there's 3 more buildings coming online, and eventually we'll probably acquire the land that's across from the Casket Building. So we're trying, and with that, we'll bundle, go out for RFP, go out for RFQ, have people come in who will develop this land. And hopefully we will have a riverfront that, should the train come, people will want to stop and get off.
Just one other issue in there. We're looking at buildings that are underutilized or buildings that are old. Now, we have
The buildings and grounds.
buildings and grounds down on, Prospect Street. Okay, I think it's 100 years old, isn't it?
It's over that.
If you looked at the cost to put in a bathroom in there or to do some, just that you have to do a locker room for the folks down there, you say, why are we doing this? We have the Jablonski Center and we have a lot of land over there. Maybe it would be more efficient to move people together, just as a thought. I think we have to put our thinking caps on and start thinking a little creatively. As we've always done, that building's always been there, but does it always have to be used for that purpose, or could be repurposed? So we got to get out of the square box that we're in and maybe think of a few different ways to do it. The second thing, I agree 100% with Donna in terms of the referendums. That's the only way to lock in that money and make sure it happens. But the other part of her thing about referendums was the items that don't cost $600,000, that are under $600,000. Could those be dealt with fairly quickly through using town employees or getting even some new employees in there with the right skill sets to do like the brickwork and stuff like that? There are a lot of small jobs that could be bundled together and get done if we had folks that could do that when there's any kind of downtime. I'm not saying there is, I just don't know. But I think we have to plan for that. And I think another thing for the project manager to use our staff as efficiently as they possibly can.
My second question is, out of the $101 million to fix all these buildings, is any of that included with the energy referendum that passed 2 years ago? Any of it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, if you look
so
down.
we don't owe 101.
Okay.
There's
this
stipulations to it.
I'm kind of sharing my little cheat sheet of how I looked at everything. If you could put it up on the screen. Actually, if you look down in the left-hand corner, okay, you'll see the performance contract was $11 million. And those are color-coded to the columns.
Yeah, except I ran out of yellow ink, so.
So basically, we took the whole report, which was 101, and then if you removed Fermi, Hale, and JFK, which were $52 million, performance contract, which was another 11 million, you get down to, really the nuts and bolts of what it is, and that's $42 million. But of that, really, there's about 25 that is over the referendum limit. They're really important projects. They're envelope, they're security, they're boilers. They're the really big ticket items that I think that we need to organize in a fashion to get them done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Ryder.
Is this document itself public or will be? posted?
It's public.
As long as it's out here, it's public.
Yeah. Is there a column for the addresses? Like some of these buildings, I don't know where they are. Like, is there an address column that we just don't have here?
Just we thought everybody knew it. No, I'm really kidding.
Some of us, yeah. I'll speak for the layman's in town. I don't know where all of these buildings are.
We can add that in.
Yeah, that could be added in. Yeah, for us, we kind of.
I'm not a lifer.
But you've lived here forever, Scott.
No, I brought up some questions too during the committee meetings. Where is this place?
We told you it wasn't perfect. This is just no, I'm only kidding.
No, it's great. I just.
That's a good point.
It's a
'cause,
great point. It's a
all of
great
us
point.
on the committee are pretty much lifetime people. And we kind of knew where all the buildings were, but that's an excellent point that we probably should.
Thank you.
Ms. LeBlanc.
Okay, I have a question about the buildings on here. So District 4, they're really mad about Control Module on Brainerd Road being vacant and empty.
They bought the school. They
They bought that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
they
not ours.
own that.
It's theirs.
We did look to,
buy it
I
back.
know, but it's, the price is not conducive to what we.
Just because it's empty, they were tired of seeing
I know.
overgrown grass and have it be.
We agree.
They should put it, the blight should go if the grass is overgrown. They still have to maintain their buildings, if they're vacant. There's no excuse for that.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
Just as we do.
Very good.
Control Module owns it, and they were leasing it to the correct
Yeah,
public service.
PSA was there for a
Yeah.
little while, but I know that people in District 4 mentioned that several times to me, not
It
just
wasn't-
one.
wasn't the town leasing it, it was Control Module.
Oh, that's awful. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Well,
Do you have anything, Liz? Do you have anything on that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
well, on behalf of the board, I mean,
Thank you.
these two did all the legwork on the graphs, so Tim and Donna did a lot of nights and
We don't
putting all
have, we
these,
don't have lives.
yeah, plugging in numbers, so thank you again, and I know we'll be discussing this at joint leadership, so,
Yes, on the 20th.
on the 20th, so.
Thank you all. We appreciate it. If you have questions,
Thank you.
contact us, okay?
Yep.
Thanks.
I'll give Mr. Neville a minute to get back up in his seat.
I'm thinking about getting my jacket and put it over my legs.
I'm sorry.
You're in a dress. You must be cold. My feet are freezing. I rested my hand up. Did you feel this? I rested my hand on
Yeah,
it
you're
and it
right.
got like condensation. Yes. I was like,
And all right, we'll continue with number 7, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Drezig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our student reps are here, so
So we will start
you choose to
with
be
my left, with Megan.
So the girls basketball team had their first opening game last night of the season, and they won 63-27. The NHS will be inducting 9 new members tomorrow night, and the girls basketball team also have games this Thursday and Saturday night, and they hope everyone comes out and supports them. And everyone is very excited for Christmas break to come.
And Matt.
The School Spirit Week will be held next week, and there will be themed clothing days and other exciting events, so everybody's looking forward to that. And the dance team will be performing for the first time after a couple months of hard work and preparation. The Tri-M Music Honor Society inducted 7 new members last Thursday, and EHS held a Human Rights Day yesterday, during which students could participate voluntarily in informational sessions during Eagle Block, and the attendance was pretty good.
Thank you. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As was just mentioned, Enfield High School National Honor Society induction ceremony will be held tomorrow evening. That's Wednesday, the 13th, in the auditorium at 6:30 p.m. And enclosed in your packet is your invitation. Also tomorrow, Parkman will be hosting the Walmart trucks from the Wreaths Across America program that's heading to Arlington National Cemetery. This year's event will occur tomorrow morning at 9:30. Board members are invited to attend this Enfield tradition. Enclosed in your packet is additional information from Principal Roman about Wreaths Across America. What I wanted to add, and I know a lot of you are familiar with Ms. Lori Gates, who actually spearheads this effort on Enfield's behalf. We weren't on the official list for Wreaths Across America this year. However, some of the gentlemen who drive the Walmart trucks as part of the caravan from Maine to DC contacted Lori and said that it was one of the best receptions they had on the entire East Coast was actually coming into Enfield. So though we're not on the official list for Wreaths Across America, they asked if they can come stop by. So we're treating it as an event tomorrow, as is a typical Wreaths Across America event, but we thought it was a big honor. You can applaud that again. It was a great honor, and we were very well represented. And I will thank her profusely tomorrow, but I'd like to thank her again, Ms. Gates, for all the efforts that she does on behalf of veterans and first responders. The Board of Education will also have a workshop on Monday, December 18th at 5:30 p.m. Workshop will be held in the board conference room at Alcorn. And for our break, as I know our two student reps are anxiously awaiting, schools will be closed for all Enfield Public School students and staff on December 25th through January 1st for the Christmas New Year's break. Central office will be open, including the deputy, on December 27th, 28th, and 29th, and all students and staff will return to school on Tuesday, January 2nd. We wish everyone a happy holiday and a happy new year. The grants report is in your packet, as well as a list for December events. And two things that are not on my list. There is an invitation in your packets for another event tomorrow evening, that's Stories Around the World. That's being held at the Stowe Early Learning Center, being sponsored by Kite. We had to make a time change. It was originally scheduled for 5 to 6, but there was a conflict with the National Honor Society, so they're actually moving the time to 6 to 7:30, and that will be held at the Stowe Early Learning Center. And lastly, what's not on your report, but I'm sure it's on everyone's minds, is an update on Power School. So I will go quickly through where our update is and where we are with some of the outstanding questions that we've had. With regards to Enfield High School, progress reports, report cards, parent portal, and student portal are all open and up and running. JFK progress reports and report cards are up and running. The parent portal will open up on Friday, and directions are going to go out with progress reports. As I said, the progress reports are up and running in Power School, and directions will go out with the progress reports for parents on Friday. And the student portal will also open on Friday, and directions are going to go out with the progress reports for students as well. For the intermediate school, progress reports are ready. They're not out yet, but they are ready to go out in Power School, as well as report cards, and the same with our primary schools. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Drezek. So we will proceed with audiences, and I again will read the new policy on audiences. During this period, any resident or taxpayer of Enfield, employee of the board, or citizen with an interest in our school system may address the board on issues concerning the school. When addressing the board, the member of the audience shall state their name and address, refrain from making personal attacks on individuals. Since the board meetings are held to conduct board's business in public and are not meetings with the public, the chair, acting on behalf of the board, has the right to limit the time, the overall length of time devoted to the audience participation and/or length of time individuals may spend addressing the board. And so we're going to do 3 minutes, one time only, and also Mr. Drezek has a statement to read, or do we still want to read that?
Sure.
So he has a statement to read also.
And this is in regards to, at the last board meeting, a resident had a question posed to the board, and the board had asked me to get some information on it, and I know it was explained that there was an email going around. I wasn't in receipt of the email, so I have how I would respond, and the board chair asked if I would just share that with the board and the community this evening. And it's regards to parent volunteers and having parent volunteers come into the schools and working in different capacities, whether it be supervising children at at recess and other things alike. So I'll read what my response would have been had I typed it out to send to the parent that was in questioning it. The board welcomes the participation of parent volunteers and assisting teachers and staff in classrooms, on field trips, and other settings supervised by teachers. However, the board's policy on this issue requires that volunteers work under the direct supervision of school staff. The board's policy of allowing parent volunteers to work with students under the direct supervision of staff balances the value that the board places on the work of parent volunteers with the board's need to protect itself from the impermissibly high risk of liability that would result if parents were permitted to work directly with students without staff supervision. We thank you all for your understanding.
So we'll open up to public communication. First one on the list is Judy Kilty.
Judy Kilty, 83 Abbey Road, Enfield, Connecticut. And just want to start by saying that I think this policy is a huge mistake. The biggest problem we faced in the last 2 years has been a lack of communication. This is one chance the parents get to communicate. I think it's just a terrible decision. I've been an active, involved, and interested parent and grandparent and community member for many years. During my time, I have witnessed some improvements in our school and a number of areas of development. As a member of the community and your constituent, I am interested in what each of you perceive as your role and your vision for the public schools. As this is one of our first meetings of your tenure of this Board of Education, it's important that you have priorities and goals as an individual contributor, as a board collectively. I have lists of issues that concern me greatly. As such, I hope these issues will find their way onto your list of priorities for the 2017-19 School Board of Education's plan of action moving forward. I would like to begin with the failed JFK referendum. This is problematic for at least two reasons. The first deals with the safety of our students, the PCB contamination. Per Scott Copen, the Town Council and Board of Ed were to discuss the next steps with regard to the PCP issue should the referendum fail. I've not heard anything further on this issue. Given the risks, I ask that you update the public on your progress. This is not an issue that can be dismissed or ignored. The second issue is the needed improvements at the JFK School. The board needs to consider how the population of Enfield children will fit into buildings that is far too small and in disrepair. As the board, you're charged with overseeing the education and welfare of the students. Overcrowded and dilapidated facilities affect the safety and performances of our students and affect the perception of our community to visitors and prospective home buyers. Kicking the can is no longer acceptable. And I just don't like being rushed. I think it's a mistake to cut back the communication.
You still have 1 minute, so. Okay. Thank you. Next is Lynn Kostek? Sorry. Apologize for.
It's okay, it's Polish.
No, that's my problem. See, I'm Polish and I can't even read that. So.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Kostek, 13 Teach Street. First of all, congratulations on everyone on making your new assignments on the board. And if you are unclear of what your responsibilities are as Board of Education members, I have composed a little bit of the following. First, what is the board going to do to ensure that our children have an appropriate school building and facility to grow in? And to an extent, you believe this issue lies with the town council. I first say to you, you do not understand your charge. You are responsible for the education of these children. That means every aspect, and it most certainly means that you must advocate to whomever holds the authority for providing the appropriate facilities. Second, I implore that the Board of Education insist on the Town Council effective July 1st, 2018, return management of the school facilities back to you, the appropriate governing body. Chapter 170 in the Connecticut General Statute states that the local boards of education are not agents of the town, but creatures of the state. Education is a state issue and not a local issue. It is appropriate for the town council to have it is inappropriate for the town council to have jurisdiction over the maintenance of the facilities used by the Enfield Public Schools. The statutes provide duties of the boards of education. Each local or regional board of education shall maintain good public elementary and secondary schools, implement the educational interests of the states as defined in section 10-4A, and provide such other educational activities as it is judgment will be served for the interests of the school district. The board shall provide an appropriate learning environment for all students, which includes proper maintenance of facilities. It goes on to say that the board shall have charge of the schools of its respective school district, shall make continuing study of the need of the school facilities and a long-term school building program from time to time to make recommendations based on such study to the town. Each local board of education shall prepare an itemized statement of the cost of maintenance of the public schools for the ensuing year. The money appropriated by any municipality for the maintenance of the public schools shall be expended by and in discretion of the Board of Education. It is inappropriate for the town council to have jurisdiction and make decision-making authority over the maintenance of the school properties. It is not for them to manage. Education is a state issue, and you are the agents of the state charged with this responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy Talicio, please.
Marcy Talicio, 23 Coolidge. Going back to the PCB issue, we are aware that the PCB issue may not be exclusive to the JFK building and grounds, that it may in fact be an issue with each of our elementary school buildings as well, given the age of the buildings. Additionally, there is a known issue with mold in certain elementary schools here in town. It is imperative that indoor air quality testing be done at each of the elementary schools in the immediate future. The children in those buildings are at a higher risk of adverse health effects. The standards for contaminants in the air are far more stringent for buildings with younger children. We need to know whether action needs to be taken to protect our children and our teachers and staff. Section 10-231F requires the Board of Education establish an indoor air quality committee. Please explain what efforts have been taken to move forward with the indoor air testing at the elementary schools and what discussions have been had to pay for it. Another issue that I hope finds its way onto each of your list of top concerns is student safety and security. It seems that as soon as the armed guards were voted down, all security meetings stopped. What has been done to harden our schools? Section 10-222 provides that boards shall establish a school security and safety committee at each school under the jurisdiction of such board. It should consist of a local police officer, a local first responder, a teacher, and an administrator employed at the school, a mental health professional, a parent or guardian of a student enrolled in the school, and any other persons the board deems necessary. That's at each school. Annually, the statute requires each local and regional Board of Education conduct a security and safety assessment for each school under the jurisdiction of such board and develop a school security and safety plan based on the results of the assessment. So I ask, has this been done annually? Where are the results? Because the public has not been kept informed of any progress on this.
Thank you. Karen Vesolisa. And Karen, make sure to turn the mic back on. She turned the mic off. So.
The red button?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Weslisa. I live at 25 Renee Lane. Congratulations, everybody. I'm going to speak a little bit to the early childhood early elementary, which is what I know best. And since the beginning of the school year, there have been quite a few parents posting on social media about overcrowding in the K through 2 schools. Now, it's my understanding that the average class size in the kindergarten level is 21 or 22 students. Despite the fact that studies have shown that smaller class sizes, especially in the lower grade levels, is a precursor to academic success, Enfield is compromising quality education for fiscal responsibility. I get some of it, not all of it. With the closure of yet another primary school and the corresponding increase in class size, reports of behavior management issues have increased. Teachers are not always able to effectively manage the behaviors of some of the students. Enfield increased the class size, but failed to recognize the intrinsic effects this would have on classroom dynamics and management. When class sizes increase, teacher support systems also need to increase. And they haven't, not enough to effectively address the increase in behaviors, at least from what we know. What steps is the board going to take to address the need for behavioral supports faced by the early elementary teachers in the classrooms, and the preschools as well, frankly? Similarly, how is this board planning to enhance the collaboration between pupil services and the parents of the children with special needs? It has been stated, at least in various places, that Enfield has a high percentage of children, even young children, with special needs, both behavioral and academic. And yet, we are hearing Enfield is not widely known or is reluctant to provide services to students with identified special needs. That's really just unacceptable. We must be willing to participate in a collaborative setting with parents to choose to consider cooperation over litigation. It would be far better for our schools, our students, and our community if we spent our resources on building bridges rather than burning them, addressing needs that can promote success. Now is a good time to do this. We have a really functional early childhood program, and if you can address those behavioral needs before these kids get into a formal elementary school setting, I think you set yourself up for fiscal savings, and you certainly address the behavioral issues that we're seeing at all levels. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Gina Sullivan.
Good evening. Gina Sullivan, 11 Spear Avenue. I myself want to congratulate you all. I'm going to turn the attention now onto the high school. Beautiful building. It's time the expectations and culture match. We promote a culture of mediocrity. Parents sit through an orientation at the high school where the overarching message is, Asnuntuck is a really great school. And it is a really great community college. But why isn't the message bigger? Is Asnuntuck really the pinnacle of academic success per Enfield High? We have brilliant students, and we do a fairly good job of serving them well academically. We have students who have special needs, and we don't serve them so well. Others have already spoke to that. And then we have students that don't fit into either of those categories, and we really don't serve them at all. What is being done? What is being done to push and encourage those middle-of-the-road students to take on the challenge of a higher level class? Resiliency, grit, perseverance is what they should hear every single day. Why mediocrity? It's not good enough. Why isn't Enfield pursuing a program like AVID, in case you don't know, Advancement via Individual Determination, to encourage students to go to an institute of higher learning and provide them with the tools to effectively do so? Our goal should be to meet the student where he or she is and elevate, encourage, and celebrate success. We have guidance counselors who are overwhelmed with too many students and too little time. At times, they fail to file the necessary college application paperwork on behalf of students, disseminate information about the college selection and the application or financial aid process. And then, of course, we must also talk about the percentage of students who learn they are underprepared after they enter college. Did you know that Enfield High has a percentage of students who do not return to college for their second year, and a reported high rate of students needing to take remedial classes their first year due to being underprepared. Did you also know that some of the students that have made honor roll at Enfield High for 2 straight years have also needed these remedial classes at college? Why is this okay? It's not okay. Our children deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sue Braun.
Oh, under time.
Sue Braun, 17 Light Street. On the other side of the coin are the students who drop out of high school. Enfield has a relatively high dropout rate and a very high dropout rate among students with special needs. These are the pressing issues that need to be addressed at the high school. I hope these issues are reflected in your priorities. And communication. Please make it a priority to update the information on the EPS and school websites to reflect current information. Can we improve the websites? Can we make them more user-friendly? Can we use the tools available to us to disseminate information to families and the community in a more effective manner? Perhaps an electronic backpack. Well, perhaps first we should get PowerSchool up and running. After all, it is December. Can we keep our community calendar updated with events that would be of interest to the community, planned out a month or 2 in advance? Communication has been an issue for as long as I can remember it. And it needs to be a priority so that we can ensure the success of our district and our students. Finally, the theme of this entire discussion by these people that showed up tonight. We need a plan. We need you to need, want, and get a plan. I've heard elected officials say a plan is worthless. The board changes every 2 years. I disagree. And if you would like, I can provide you several towns that have had plans and Board of Educations that have totally changed during their plans. A good plan provides a guideline that all stakeholders can agree with, and it provides enough flexibility to accommodate changes. We don't have a plan currently. Well, not really true. We have a plan that's on the EPS website from 2015, without any further updates, progress, performance measures, or next steps. This is a classic example of what Enfield does best. We start something, we get into some detail, and then we fail to follow through. We must plan. A plan will save us money. A plan will make us follow through. I am asking you to put together a list of priorities, put together a plan, and commit to follow through with it. Our superintendent of schools should have the knowledge base and the forethought to come up with a detailed plan and help you. You, as a board, must decide that looking truthfully at what our schools are right now is more important than looking good.
Thank you. Any other public communications? Liz Davis.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Davis. I reside at 201 North Maple Street, and I am speaking as a taxpayer resident and most importantly as a mom. Few questions. One is we keep hearing the 6 behavioral health specialists that are brought in to our K-5 schools. If someone can please say what their specialty is, what degrees they hold, because we keep hearing it's behavioral health specialists. Are they BCBAs? I mean, we'd just like to know what degrees, certs, and experience these 6 individuals hold to be working on that. Another issue came to my attention that people want to say, a let it go about our last Board of Ed chair that we had that made racist, sexist, insensitive comments on Facebook. I don't think people should be told to let something go if they still see an issue with it, if it still bothers them. Our town, nevertheless our whole entire country, is built on diversity. And when something's done that's not right, we take ownership and we address it and not just let it go or tell someone they should be silenced of why somebody stood up or why they did something because it hit home with them. For one, it still hit home when our past chair made a comment on the GLBTs and gays coming out. That affects my family. Or a female wearing a uniform that defends our country. That affects me, which I proudly served for 24 years. And then being told that you have a right by freedom of speech to make those comments. Well, you're right. And also, on this note, our residents, taxpayers, mom, dads in town have the right to have their voices heard at a Board of Ed meeting. So with that being said, one would think after the last year we've dealt with the prior chair, with the comments that were made, and we were told that a policy or something would have been in effect, that would have been the first policy that came out to the public to take a stance and show us as parents it is zero tolerance for prejudice, for bigotry, for any comments like that. We hold our educators, our teachers, every staff member to that level, but we don't hold our elected officials to the same level. So, and instead, the policy that came out was to silence the people. Now, that is one thing that got me involved in everything 4 years ago when us, the residents, lost our voice. And you know, and even if it's 5, 10 more years down the road, I'm going to still say what got me involved when someone took my voice. So it's the same with anybody that runs. While you got involved, never forget what you got involved for. Keep being you, keep your integrity, and you stand up for what you believe in and don't let somebody bully you or ever put you down. Good luck to all of you for the next 2 years.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? I close public communication. Number 9, board member comments, and we're going to do this a little different today. I'm going to ask whoever wants to speak to. Sarah, Ms. Hernandez, you want to start?
Okay. Thank you, sir. Wow, I have a lot of pages of notes, and first I want to tell you, the public that came tonight, thank you. Your voice is important, and I might not like what you have to say, but it's not my job to like what you have to say. It's not my job even to dictate how you say it to me. It is my job to sit here and to listen to you and to understand what the reasons are behind what you're saying. You're upset. And I get it, and I hear you. And it's okay that you're upset. It's genuinely because you want the best for Enfield. Our motto is making a difference in every child every day, I think. It's a really good one. And I can't know how we can best serve our children if you don't tell me. I have my finger on the pulse of certain areas of town, specifically with my children. You know, so homeschooling. I know a lot about homeschoolers and what they're looking for from our community. The high school, I know a lot about the high school and things that are going on, but there's things going on in our elementary schools that I rely on you to tell me. And so I'm really, really, really hoping that we get to a place where the residents feel that they are important and that they are heard. And when we remove a public comment, it sends a message. And it may not have been intentional, but it's still the way that it was received. And so we have an obligation to have that conversation. And I look forward, I know that we have our workshop coming up, and I look forward to having that conversation amongst us because this is important. I've heard, and it, you know, not amongst the board, but in other conversations that I've had, that public comment is seen as less important because, frankly, some parents don't care. And that's an awful attitude to take. because our parents do care. And this is a very difficult time of night for a lot of our parents, for a lot of our taxpayers. People are putting their children to bed. This is the first time they've had an opportunity to see their children all day. This is really important to them. And so people who come here with public comments often are amplifying the message that many parents feel. And so I really want to make sure that we have a space that we hear what they have to say. And nevertheless, we persist.
Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a few comments this evening. First of all, as this is our last meeting of the public meeting of the year, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and a wonderful holiday season. I see there's a little bit of a festive cheer in this audience with the hats on. Hi, Gina. Second of all, regarding Sarah, your comments, on a lot of those I do agree, especially what you mentioned about freedom of speech. Remember once hearing it described that freedom of speech means that I have to be willing to listen to you rail at the top of your lungs, that which I would spend a lifetime railing against at the top of mine. And I do firmly believe that. In regards, though, to comments, one thing that should be pointed out is that all of us have phones, all of us have emails. If anybody has comments they'd like discussed or brought up, my phone number and email address are right on our school's website, and I'll even give them out right here. My phone number is area code 860-253-2546. My email is crutledge@enfieldschools.org. I'm more than happy to listen to what anybody in town has to say, and where appropriate, bring it up during these comments. Some people have talked about our need for plans and priorities. I know this is probably something we'll be discussing next week, Monday, at our Board of Ed get-together and retreat. I know 2 years ago, and I've seen the 2015 list of priorities for the board, so I look forward to working with everybody to develop a new set, as I think that might touch on a lot of what people are talking about with a plan for the next 2 years. Finally, a few things through the chair to other people. So first of all, through the chair to the policy committee chair, if I missed this in our policy handbook, mea culpa, but something similar to what Ms. Davis said, I would like to see us potentially explore a social media policy for the Board of Education to address some of those issues that Ms. Davis did bring up. So if that can be discussed at a future policy meeting, I think that would be a good idea. Also, through the chair to the superintendent, I've received some communications recently about issues on buses, and with the budgeting process coming up, I'd like to see if maybe we can look into some type of bus monitoring, be it electronic, digital, or otherwise, to help keep our kids safe and monitor what goes on the buses. I've heard some people talking about how there were some incidents recently, so if we could look into that, I think that'd be great. And finally, also through the chair to the superintendent, I know one of the priorities of the last board was to develop partnerships and internships. This is something that, is close to my heart because I believe that provides a hands-on learning experience for our students to give them the best opportunities possible. So if some of the information as to what happened with that can be communicated, that'd be great, and I'd also like to look into expanding some of those opportunities for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rutledge. Anyone else? Ms. LeBlanc?
Okay, a couple things. First, I am the JFK PTO liaison, so I went to my first JFK meeting, and I told them I would be more than happy to share any other information. So they would like me to share that they're selling winter hats with the new Patriot logo, which is exciting. The hats are red, white, and blue, and there's a different looking Patriot. He's pretty fierce, so it's really good. Those hats are $20. Also, they're having a purse bingo. If you haven't been to one, I suggest you go. They're a lot of fun. I actually won a purse once. Suffield actually did a purse and power tool bingo so that the husbands could go, which I think was pretty good. That's going to be February 3rd. Any questions, if you'd like a hat, you can reach out and Melissa Roy is the president, and she gave me the email address, which is jfkmiddleschool.pto@gmail.com. So I think it would be nice to start wearing some JFK wear, because it seems like we're always sporting Enfield Eagles. So secondly, I had the opportunity to go to the new, what we're considering like a Thanksgiving Day game for the football team. It's called the Route 5 Rivalry. There's a big trophy with the Route 5 on it. We played South Windsor. Unfortunately, South Windsor took that trophy home this year. Next year, I believe the game's going to be at South Windsor. But it was great. For as cold as it was, the game was really well attended. The band was there. It was an exciting night. I'm glad to see something like that come back to the school. I'll also mention that next Wednesday is the 8th grade band concert. I went to the Veterans Day Parade. I didn't march because my son was playing the drums in it, so I wanted to see him play the drums. The JFK band was last. I'd like them to be a little bit closer. The 8th grade band did an excellent job. And then they got to, during the ceremony, go in and mingle with the Enfield High band, which was great. I would just like to clarify one thing through the chair to the superintendent. You're saying that on Friday, the progress reports at JFK are going home, and the parents will receive the information regarding the parent portal on Friday to get into Power School.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because I'd like to update everyone. And I have one more question through the chair, because if parents are watching, or if anybody has multiple kids in multiple schools, since I have a high schooler, is the login, everything's the same? So that student will automatically pop up on my, okay. All right, so because I will mention that too. Okay, I agree with Mr. Rutledge. I believe a social media policy for board members is something that we need, and should be strictly adhered to, quite honestly. Sometimes even for new board members, it's hard to say exactly what you should or shouldn't be doing on social media. Oftentimes when you go to the CABE training, they'll talk about, how although you think you're speaking for yourself, you're really representing the 9 of you on the board. So interestingly enough. Lastly, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. You definitely had a mission to get us to listen to your concerns. I had said when I was running, I depend on the new people coming in to refresh my memory and make me look outside of the box so I don't get caught up in just the everyday role of a board member. I heard each and every one of you. I took your priorities that you spoke about. Mrs. Kilty's role for the vision and priority, Ms. Kostick's appropriate school facilities. I remember really getting involved with the school not too much after they had actually moved the facilities over to the town council. The indoor air quality, early childhood, high school expectations, community calendar, the behavior specialist. I think you guys came at a good time. I'm going to keep these notes. We have our board retreat next Monday, and we're going to be working on goals and priorities. And I think that that you had some really good points, and it's definitely something that I will look into as a board member. I also understand that you guys or the community, and it's not just people here that have reached out to me that are upset about not having the second audience. I remember we added that in particular to model more of what the town council was doing, since the town council has more audiences. It's something that's going to be discussed as a board going forward, and to see if that can be discussed to be changed or whatever. I'm not saying that I agree with it, because I don't. I think that we all kind of ran on a platform of transparency and wanting to hear the residents. So I enjoy hearing from you. Like Sarah, I don't always love what you have to say to me, but sometimes it's hard not to take it a little personally. But that's what we're here for. That's what we were elected, is to hear from you and represent the voters. So with that being said, I wish all my constituents on the board, the superintendent, central office, all of the community, a safe and happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blank. Mr. Neville?
Just a few comments. Some of them will be along the same lines as some of our other spokespeople. First of all, just I'd like to thank Lori Gates, as it was brought up before. The Wreaths Across America has been fabulous. Anybody that's gone down there, been there, or gone to the cemetery when they've had the ceremony down there, it's just fabulous. And it's really nice to be thought of that from the people who are actually taking the route down there, that Enfield is the place to stop. So we're sending out the right message there. I think we're also sending out the right message when we talk about our athletes and the people who represent us here. It makes me proud when these kids come up here, and I thought they did a great way of introducing them this time, a little bit different than we have in the past, and I thought it was really, really a good way to do it. But we have to take care to support and honor the people who represent Enfield well, and these young people, young men and women, certainly do that. Nobody mentioned Rachel's Challenge. We have breakfast on Saturday. So I don't know how we could have forgotten that. That's a free breakfast. It's in your notes, okay? I got it. We've been doing it for what, 6 years, 5 years? Something like that? Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that came out of that some of the tragedies we had here. And the Suicide Prevention Committee and getting involved with Rachel's Challenge, people told us that you couldn't change that, and I think our kids and our adults and everybody changed that and put a positive in there, and a lot of good things are happening because of that. The early childhood stuff that we have that was mentioned tonight by Karen, we have wonderful stuff here that is, I think, a highlight for us in the community, but I think it also makes other communities come to us and look at it and say, hey, you guys are doing good things. I did have a question about the numbers that were there in terms of the 21 and 22 students. I looked at them a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not sure whether that's high or not, but I think that data is readily available, so we could certainly get it if we had to. But I think in terms of the behavior, I think we've actually acted quite quickly to respond to some things that we really didn't know that much about at the beginning, at least from data that we had. And I think that program is starting, or is already starting. I don't know whether you want to comment on that through the chair to the superintendent or not. What I'd like to do, I got that as a not right now because it's just starting. What I'd like to do, and I think you intend to do this, is after the first of the year, bring back an update as to how things are going. But I think it's really positive that this particular community and school board, and particularly the superintendent and assistant superintendent, can put together, can identify a problem, honor the people who brought it to us, and certainly we needed to hear that, but also come up with a solution that we can start within 8 weeks. I mean, I know a lot of administrators in this state. I don't know anyone that could turn something around and come up with something that we can begin with. We know it's going to evolve. We know it's going to try to address that problem. We know we have to keep the discussion going, but we're not sitting on our hands doing nothing. And I think, I know we're all anxious to get stuff done, but I think just the fact that we can respond, it won't be perfect, but I think it will evolve and get better as we go along. So kudos to you guys for doing that. And finally, I appreciate all of you folks coming out. We need, as everybody here has said, we need to hear from you. I think we said that as we were running for office. We don't always like it, but we need to hear it. And I think a lot of the things that you've got, we'll take from the notes that we have, the notes that the others have, and bring them to our retreat. One of the other things that's coming up is the audience issue. I think it bothered us. I think we were a little surprised at what happened. I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, shame on us if we didn't pay attention when we should have. But the issue of communication is probably the top of the list of the issues that we have to deal with. And I think, and I said this to the leadership people, I've talked to everybody here, I don't think, whatever the reasons, I think it's difficult to take away an opportunity. And I think speaking at a public meeting is an opportunity for the public. And I think we have concerns, and we've had a good discussion earlier this evening, and I think there's a consensus that we'll bring this to the retreat for a more thorough discussion, because we won't be having a meeting until then. And if we can work that out, maybe bring it, if things, depending on how things go, we'll ask to put it on a future agenda. But I think the important thing, and I don't think anybody here disagrees, that we need to hear from the public and provide as many opportunities as we can. And finally, we probably won't see you folks until after the new year, unless you come down to breakfast on Saturday morning with Rachel's Challenge. I wish all of you a happy holiday. Enjoy your families, because that's what I'm going to do, and enjoy the blessings of the holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neville. Mr. Renier, or Mr. Ryder first.
Good evening. This Saturday, December 16th, there's the Rachel Challenge Pancake Breakfast. It's over at St. Patrick's Church in the church hall. And also, after the Rachel's Challenge Pancake Breakfast. I'd like to invite everybody wearing my PTO hat to maybe finalize some of their holiday shopping at Barnes & Noble, where the Hazardville Memorial students will be doing a holiday concert and book fair from 10 to 2. The kindergartners will be performing a mini concert at 11, the first graders at noon, and the second graders at 1. Any percentages, a percentage of all purchases made on December 16th will go towards the One Book, One School program, which last year we got together with all the K-2 schools in town, and we purchased the same book, so we did a One Book, One School district, so that was fun. Since we've last met as a group, I've been to 10 meetings of various things, but all based on schools, and everything that I have done for the last 5.5 years since living in Enfield has been based on trying to help better the schools, and that is for an individual plan why I am sitting up here. And we all have things that we want to do as individuals as well as a board, and we will get to them. One of those meetings was a PTO president's meeting on December 6th. We met with the superintendent and his team. Just so you know, one of the things that we try to do for parents in town that have siblings at both primary and like at the K2 and 3-5 level, because at that age you don't want Timmy to pick, you don't want to choose between Timmy and Sally's event. So what we do is we get together as a team and we coordinate event dates for PTOs at K2 and 3-5 levels. So like we would get 1 week a month to have our Halloween party, and they would get a week, the following week, and then the other 2 weeks are open. We just check in with each other, make sure we're not stepping on toes. We don't want to have a Halloween party the same night as our 3-5 siblings, because we want to make sure both both kids get to go. So that's one of the things we discuss as PTO presidents as a group. Another thing that came up in that meeting, Parent Leadership Academy. I don't know. I know a lot of people here in the room have taken that class. I took that class 9 a couple of years ago. If that's something you want to hear more about, I'd be happy to answer your questions, as I took that class a few years back. And again, my email address is sryder@enfieldschools.org. I can put you in touch with the folks that run that program. It's a great group, and they start up again this winter. They're doing a retreat, I believe the first or second Saturday in February, and then classes begin the following Thursday. That's held over at the Stowe Early Learning Centers where they do their classes. That's a program through KITE. And speaking of KITE, on Saturday, December 30th at the Middle Road Library from 11 a.m. until noon, KITE's Enfield Plays On program, which I'm a board member of that as well. We're co-hosting a New Year's Eve party. This is for all of our preschool through grade 3 students. We're going to do a countdown to noon. We're going to treat noon as if it's midnight. There's going to be a great DJ there that I've heard good things about. That way our youngest students in town can celebrate with their families. New Year's Eve, which is a little bit earlier in the day than New Year's. So for more information about that, you can visit enfieldkite.org, their website, or Enfield Plays On Facebook page. One of my new hats with the Board of Ed is to be a liaison between certain groups. I'm working with Eli Whitney, who, as one of the students mentioned, we're having Spirit Week at Eli Whitney next week. As we approach the holiday break, there's Crazy Socks Day, Backwards Day, Crazy Hair Day, Mix Match Day, and School Spirit Wear Day. Things like that, the kids, especially at the K2 and 3-5 level, and I assume high school, you get excited about stuff like that, wearing mix match socks and everything. Yeah. So that's fun. I also met with Effie as recently as last evening. They would love to come and speak to us because there's a lot of new board members this year, so they'd like to come and tell us a little bit about what they do. They want to invite some recent grant recipients here to meet us and tell us what they did with their projects with their grant money, maybe have a little meet and greet before our Board of Ed meeting. We're looking at maybe February 13th for that, so I'll just coordinate that with Kathy and the superintendent's office. And I think that's most of the meetings I've been doing the last 2 weeks. I do 2 or 3 a night. So finally, I just wanted to say, however you and your family celebrate the December holidays, may they be safe and enjoyable, and also Happy New Year to everybody here and everybody watching at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Mr. Renier.
Thank you. I just want to say heartfelt remembrance to our friends in Newtown. 5 years ago this week on Thursday, tragedy struck our friends, and 26 lives were lost. And it's very unfortunate that you have to remember an anniversary such as that. but it just strikes the importance of how many brave individuals were in that school that day and how many brave individuals continue to fight for a lot of rights for kids. And it's just right down the road from us. So I'm sure a lot of people share my thoughts and wish them well during this 5-year anniversary. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renier. Ms. Riley?
I wanted to say congratulations to the student athletes that were here tonight. That was great. And I also wanted to thank everybody up here that went together to the CABE training this past week. It was an all-day affair and very informative. Brought some good stuff back. I wanted to thank all the people that came out tonight and gave their comments. A lot of those things are probably going to be discussed at our retreat, so thank you for bringing that up tonight. I also wanted to say, because I know some things were said tonight that may have been a catalyst from my comment last time about JFK, things about the building, our town council. I'm fully aware that there is a synergy between the Board of Ed and town council with the building. But as with government goes, I want to make sure that you get to the right place in the quickest amount of time. So don't take it as that it was an insensitive comment. I probably should have elaborated more, but I'm a straight to the point kind of a girl. So I know that you guys did a tremendous job on the JFK pre-ref committee. I went to some of those meetings and saw the hard work that you did put in. So I just wanted to say I am aware of that synergy, and I would love to help as much as I could. So I just try to get the people in the right place at the right time. That's my job. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Anyone else? Mr. Poe.
So it's kind of hard to not have the most eager hand up because everyone always ends up taking everything you want to say. But again, I just want to reiterate a few points that came up here and just sort of express my support for some of the same feelings and ideas. Some of the things that Chris and, of course, others were saying about social media policy and making sure that we set standards for our own conduct. I wholeheartedly support that. It's definitely something I look forward to discussing. A lot of the things that have come up tonight, as Charlotte just mentioned, are things that we look forward to discussing at our workshop. So while I may have had a bit of a blank face tonight and I was frantically taking notes, there are a lot of things that I'm excited to speak with the other 8 people up here about and try to formulate some really great thoughts about, do some fact checking, do some planning, and be able to get back to you guys with some more information that you're looking for. So that's important to me, just as I know it is to everyone else that's up here. Additionally, regarding comments, thank you all for coming. A lot of what was said was very interesting, it was very compelling, and again, I have paragraphs of notes. So thank you for that. It's obvious that you took the time to research, everything that you brought. It's obvious that you're bringing your passion here. We're here because of our passion as well. So I hope that when our passions meet yours, we can find solutions that work. And I'm very personally committed to trying to make that happen. So I appreciate you taking the time. Also reiterating something Chris was saying, use my email. I haven't gotten very many yet. Now, I'm not saying open the floodgates, but it is out there. So please do feel like you can email us. I don't know. I can't speak to any experience that anyone might have had with anyone sitting in this chair before me, but me speaking as me and part of this board, reach out. We do want to hear you, regardless of how it's structured, which again, we can discuss. But my email is always there, 24/7. So please feel free. One thing I want to mention really quick that no one else has said yet is Enfield Street School. I am their liaison. They are having their Penguin Patch holiday shopping next week. So anyone who might have an Enfield Street student, please just be cognizant of that. And if anybody wants to volunteer in the school to help, it's really cool to help the kids pick out the different gifts that they want to give everyone for their holidays. So you can certainly reach out to me and I can funnel you to the appropriate person, or check out the Enfield Street School PTO Facebook page, and they can point you in the right direction if you want to help out. So that starts on Monday the 18th. And that's about all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Poe. Anyone else? No, me, okay. So I, being Crandall liaison, there is a PTO meeting oh, it's actually tonight. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was tomorrow. So it's going on right now. So shows you how much I know. And we did mention Reese Across America tomorrow at Parkman, but there was also the ceremony at the St. Patrick's Cemetery on Saturday at 12 o'clock. That's attended by the local officials and everything, so don't forget that, 12 o'clock. And yes, Rachel's Challenge was mentioned, and I have nothing left for me to talk about. I'm just going to go home. So at that, I will say, tonight's the start of Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah to those, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you all here next year. And with that, let's go back to number 10, unfinished business. We have none. Number 11, new business. We're going to discuss that after executive session, correct? Or we're not having
There is
executive
not a
session?
need for executive session.
All right, so there's no need for that. Awesome. Number 12, and if you notice, I changed the orders of these a little bit just to get the more important stuff at the beginning and the building committee down farther. So we'll start with curriculum, which is, I guess, was meeting next week.
Well, it's supposed to meet on the 20th, but we have another meeting on that day, so Ashley and Sarah and I are going to meet after this meeting, and we're going to give you that list. How's that?
Okay. Finance, I think, set some,
Next week.
yeah, they set some meetings.
Right.
Because I heard my calendar going off the other day, so.
Yes, your calendar went off the charts. Nothing right now,
Okay.
though.
Policy, same thing, they got a meeting planned?
January 2nd.
Okay. Leadership met tonight, and we did discuss a few things that we brought up here, and we're going to discuss a few more things at our workshop next Monday. And we are going to try to do leadership more often on a regular basis. Joint facilities, we talked about today with the committee, and building committee hasn't met. I think they're meeting on the 21st.
I think,
Yes,
isn't
the
it?
21st is the next meeting. And again, it's just close out of invoices and everything. And then any other committees, insurance doesn't meet till May, and we may add to this list at our workshop, so we'll see.
That's great.
So on that, we'll go to number 13, approval of regular meeting minutes, November 28th, 2017. So moved by Mr. Neville, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion? Show of hands, all in favor? Any opposed? We have 9-0-0. Oh, one abstain, I'm sorry. It's 8-0-1. Abstention by Ms. LeBlanc. Approval of accounts and payroll. We have none.
We had none.
Correspondence and communication?
Nothing.
Nothing. And we do not have a need for executive session? So we'll skip number 17 and go, no, we will do number 17. A motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Neville, seconded by Ms. Riley. Any discussion? All in favor? We are adjourned. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you.